Shadows of the Past, Leah's Tale. Let me tell you a story that unfolded in 2006, in one of those seemingly quiet and peaceful European cities that sometimes hide dark shadows within their folds. It's the story of a girl named Leah, 17 years old, like any flower in the springtime of her life. She was vibrant, with almond-shaped eyes that reflected the sparkle of youth and some of the anxieties of adolescence. Leah lived with her father, Mark, a man who worked tirelessly to provide for her, but his constant busyness often left Leah feeling lonely in their large house, as if a part of her was missing something that couldn't be filled. She had a very close friend, almost a brother in spirit, named Alex. From their childhood, they were inseparable. They shared adolescent secrets, innocent childhood laughter, and future dreams that hadn't yet extended beyond the pages of school books. But as they grew older, Alex's feelings began to change. He no longer saw Leah as just a friend. She had become the girl who had stolen his heart, whom he wished was his. He tried repeatedly to draw her closer, to break the barrier of friendship that Leah had built around them, but she saw him as the brother she never had, a loyal friend, nothing more. One evening, after a long school day, they chatted at their favorite cafe. Alex was trying again to suggest a romantic relationship between them. Leah, who was annoyed by this recurring conversation, refused once more, but this time her rejection was firmer. Alex's words turned into pressure, and his facial expressions revealed accumulated frustration and anger. "Alex, please, I don't want to lose your friendship, but I don't see you that way," Leah said in a harsh voice. Alex wouldn't accept it. "So that's it? After all these years? You reject me as if my feelings mean nothing," he said loudly, almost drawing the attention of other cafe patrons. The atmosphere quickly became tense, and they parted exchanging sharp words, anger leaving a thick wall of silence and tension between them. Alex left the cafe with a look in his eyes Leah had never seen before, a look filled with bitter rage and humiliation, as if fire had ignited in his chest, a fire of revenge he didn't know how to extinguish. That night, Alex couldn't close his eyes. Anger raged within him, and the feeling of rejection gnawed at his dignity. In a moment of weakness, a moment when a dark obsession took hold, a sick idea, a black vengeful thought, was born, to go to her house in the dead of night and take what he wanted by force, or at least, to terrify her and make her regret rejecting him. Driven by this heinous idea, Alex crept silently through the night, his heart pounding, towards Leah's house. The streets were deserted, and the only light was the faint moonlight. He cautiously approached the back window of Leah's room, that window which was often left slightly open for ventilation on warm summer nights. As he got closer, he heard strange sounds coming from inside. They weren't ordinary sounds, they were muffled murmurs, faint sounds of struggle, and then suddenly, he heard a faint scream, quickly stifled with force. Alex froze in place, blood curdling in his veins. He felt cold terror creeping into every fiber of his being. He realized something terrible was happening inside, something far worse than any vengeful idea he had entertained. He saw a shadow move quickly inside the room, a familiar shadow, but he couldn't believe his eyes. Alex retreated with indescribable fear and panic, not waiting to see more. He ran away into the darkness, leaving behind a secret he dared not tell anyone, and the echo of the scream reverberating in his ears, a living nightmare that would haunt him forever. Now, let me tell you about another character, a person who was part of Leah's life, but whose presence cast dark shadows, Leah's uncle, Paul, her father Mark's brother. Paul was an eccentric character, living in his own world, often withdrawn from everyone. He suffered from obvious mental disorders and was known for his perverse inclinations and strange behaviors. His presence always caused anxiety in the family, and Leah tried her best to avoid dealing with him, feeling a strange intuition that told her there was something dark inside him. Mark always tried to treat him kindly, perhaps out of pity, or perhaps because he didn't fully realize the extent of the underlying problem. The next morning, a morning Mark would never forget, he woke to find the house enveloped in a strange and absolute silence. He didn't hear Leah preparing for school, he didn't hear her usual laughter. He searched for her in her room but couldn't find her. His heart pounded when he found the bathroom door locked from the inside. A bad feeling came over him, but he tried to calm himself. He called her name repeatedly, but there was no response. After several attempts to open the door, Mark broke it open forcefully to find the scene that shattered his entire life, the scene that would haunt him in every waking moment and dream, his daughter Leah lying motionless on the bathroom floor, her small body telling a gruesome story of violence. The sight was shocking and horrific in every sense of the word. Leah was wearing her delicate nightclothes, but her body was covered in blue and purple bruises that covered her arms and legs. There were clear, undeniable signs of sexual assault. And as Mark grieved, holding his dead daughter's head in his hands, he noticed a strange and disgusting mark on her right leg, a heat-burned tattoo, resembling an ancient seal, its details unclear, but its presence evoked terror and chills, as if it were the killer's signature. The police arrived quickly, and the house became a crime scene. Grave-faced investigators began their meticulous work. Photographers took pictures, and experts collected evidence. Every passing minute lessened the hope of finding the culprit. The leads were initially few: Alex, Leah's friend who had argued with her hours before her death, and her uncle Paul, whose troubled history and strange behaviors made him a prime suspect. Detectives spoke to Mark, who was in a state of complete shock and bewilderment. "Did you notice anything strange, Mr. Mark? Was Leah talking about any problems?" one of them asked. Mark, his voice trembling and barely audible, mentioned Leah's argument with Alex, then spoke of his uncle Paul's strange behavior. Mark suddenly remembered something, a small detail that seemed insignificant at the time, but now acquired a terrifying meaning. Days before the incident, Paul had shown strange interest in Leah. It wasn't the normal interest of an uncle showing affection for his niece, but rather scrutinizing glances and hidden observations. She felt he was looking at her more than once, but she would ignore him as usual. Mark wouldn't have connected it to a crime like this, but now, all those small details began to coalesce into a painful and terrifying picture, a picture his mind didn't want to believe. The police began to focus their investigation on Paul. A search warrant was issued for his small, isolated house. In that house, reeking of neglect and isolation, the investigators entered. They found the basement dark and disgusting, filled with strange objects. Among old books on secret cults and bizarre manuscripts, they discovered suspicious metal tools. And in a dark corner, under a pile of belongings, they found the burned metal tool that perfectly matched the mark on Leah's leg. The shock was indescribable, as the evidence pointed directly to him, leaving no room for doubt. And while the police closed in on Paul, Alex was living his own nightmare. Guilt and fear gnawed at his soul. He couldn't sleep, haunted by the screams he had heard that night and the image of the shadow he had seen. He knew he possessed crucial information that could expose the killer, but the fear of being accused of the crime himself paralyzed his thinking. But the burden of the secret was too heavy to bear. In the end, he could no longer stand the weight. He went to the police station, and with a pale face and sunken eyes, confessed everything: his argument with Leah, his sick idea of revenge that led him to her house, and most importantly, what he heard and saw at her window. His confession was a key breakthrough in the investigation, confirming the suspicions surrounding Paul and providing conclusive evidence of his presence at the crime scene at the time of the incident. After a fierce and intensive confrontation with the investigators, Paul broke down in the face of the evidence and testimonies provided by Alex, and confessed to his heinous crime. His motives were a mixture of his deep psychological disorders and his inner demons fueled by strange beliefs and cult rituals he had recently become immersed in. As for the burned seal on Leah's leg, it turned out to be a symbol of a mysterious cult Paul had joined, and he believed it granted him power and control over others, and that Leah was a necessary sacrifice to complete their sick rituals. Leah returned to her father as a lifeless body, her small body telling a true, unforgettable tragedy. Mark lived the rest of his life bearing the scars of that black day, wondering how evil could infiltrate his life in such a horrific way, and how he had overlooked the signs of danger lurking around him. As for Alex, he lived with deep regret for what he almost did, but found some solace in having contributed to uncovering the truth. He had to live with the guilt of the bad intention that had crossed his mind, but he survived being directly involved in the crime itself. Leah's story was a harsh lesson for everyone. Leah's story remained etched in the memory of that quiet city, a constant reminder that shadows can hide behind closed doors, that anger can push some to the brink, but absolute madness can mercilessly destroy everything. It is a story that whispers to us to be vigilant, to pay attention to those closest to us, and that evil can hide in the closest and quietest places. A reminder that every life has a story, and some stories, even if painful, must be told for us to learn from them.